All right, let's just jump right into it. For decades, the VPN has been that trusted gatekeeper for remote access. But what happens when that gatekeeper, the thing meant to protect you, becomes your biggest security risk? Today, we're going to break down why the days of the classic VPN are numbered and what's quickly taking its place.
And look, this isn't some far-off theoretical problem. A recent report found that a staggering 56% of organizations were attacked through vulnerabilities in their VPNs just in the last year. I mean, think about that. That's more than half. The very tool designed to keep attackers out has basically become a wide-open front door. And this whole crisis really hit a fever pitch in 2024. First, in January, huge flaws in Ivanti VPNs let attackers just waltz past logins and run their own code. It got so bad that by February, the US government literally ordered all federal agencies to just pull the plug. Then, boom, in April, another huge vendor, Palo Alto Networks, had a vulnerability so bad it got a perfect 10.0 severity score. The message couldn't have been clearer. Relying on these old tunnels just isn't safe anymore.
So, to really get why this is all happening, we have to look at the basic design of a VPN. And it turns out, the problem, well, it's the tunnel itself. You've probably heard this analogy before, right? The castle and the moat. A VPN is like that single secure bridge over the moat. You show your credentials, the drawbridge comes down, and you're in. But here's the catch. Once you're inside those castle walls, you can go anywhere. The kitchens, the throne room, the armory, you have access to everything. And that, right there, is the fundamental security flaw. The thing is, VPNs were designed for a world that, for most of us, just doesn't exist anymore. They were built for that old world you see on the left. One central office, servers humming away in a back room, a nice, clear perimeter. But we live in the new world now. Our teams are everywhere, our most important apps are in the cloud, and that idea of a simple perimeter, yeah, that's completely dissolved. And this really gets to the heart of it. A VPN places a user directly on the corporate network. That means it gives them broad, implicit trust. For an attacker, that's a dream come true. It lets them do something called lateral movement. So if they steal just one person's password, they can quietly move across the entire internal network, looking for valuable data. On top of all that, forcing all your traffic through one central point creates slowdowns, and the whole setup exposes this massive attack surface. The takeaway here is pretty simple. The VPN model is fundamentally broken for the way we work today. So, if the old model of, trust me, I'm inside, is the problem, what's the solution? Well, it's a completely different way of thinking. It's a philosophy, and it's called zero trust. And really, it all comes down to this one simple but incredibly powerful idea. Never trust, always verify. What that means is we stop assuming a request is safe just because it's coming from inside the network. Every single request, every time, has to prove it's legit. Now, the way we put this philosophy into practice is with something called Zero Trust Network Access, or ZTNA. And this is the key difference. Unlike a VPN that connects a user to the network, ZTNA connects a verified user to a specific application. It's a huge shift. Access is only granted after checking who you are, the health of your device, and a bunch of other factors. And it does this for every single request. This whole thing is built on three core ideas that directly counteract the VPN's biggest flaws. First, continuous verification. There's no such thing as a trusted zone, not inside, not outside. Second, least privilege access. Basically, you only get the keys to the specific rooms you absolutely need, not the entire castle. And third, and this one's my favorite, assume breach. You build your defenses as if the bad guys are already inside. That mindset forces you to limit the damage they could possibly do. And this really brings us to the most important change in how we think about this stuff. We have to stop talking about granting access to the network. Okay, this is where it all becomes crystal clear. With a VPN, you get that broad network-level access. With ZTNA, it's granular, application-level access. A VPN trusts you once when you log in. ZTNA continuously verifies you. The result? It's a total game changer. That lateral movement we talked about, the biggest risk with a VPN, it's prevented by design in ZTNA because you're never actually on the network. Your attack surface just shrinks dramatically from your entire network down to just individual hidden apps. So here's the most crucial takeaway. Even if an attacker somehow manages to compromise a user's access to one specific application, the blast radius is tiny. They can't pivot. They can't go exploring. They're stuck. The breach literally stops right there.
All right, that all sounds great in theory, but what does this actually look like in the real world? Let's walk through a super common everyday scenario.
So let's picture a support engineer. They don't need to get into the finance systems, they don't need HR databases, they need to get to one single tool to do their job, the internal ticketing system. We'll just call it tickets.company.internal. Using a tool like Cloudflare Access, an IT admin can build a policy for this in like minutes. It's a really simple, logical process. First, you just define the app you want to protect. Second, you create a rule to allow access. And then, and this is the magic part, you set the specific conditions someone has to meet to get that access.
And this right here is where you see the power of zero trust. The policy isn't just about a password, it's a multi-layered check. Access is only granted if the user is in the IT support group and they're connecting from a known corporate laptop that has disk encryption turned on, and they use multi-factor authentication. If even one of those things isn't true, sorry, access denied.
So what's the end result of all this? The engineer just opens a web browser, types in the URL, logs in, and gets straight to work. There's no clunky VPN client to launch or connect. It's totally seamless for them, and it's incredibly secure for the company. They can't see or touch anything else on the network, because from their perspective, it doesn't even exist. Okay, now let's look the script. What happens when things inevitably go wrong? Let's imagine that same support engineer sends a ticket to IT saying, hey, I can't connect. With a VPN, this is a total nightmare to troubleshoot, right? Is the whole server down? Is the user's software client messed up? Is it some random network problem somewhere? And the impact is huge. If the VPN is down, all of their access is gone. But with ZTNA, it's so much more targeted. The admin can look at the logs and see exactly why it failed. Oh, hey, your disk encryption is off, or looks like you're not in the right user group anymore. The impact is limited to just that one app, and the fix is super precise.
So this really leaves us with one final thought. The old VPN model gives every single remote user a master key to the entire castle. And when that one key is eventually compromised, and it will be, the whole kingdom is at risk. Zero Trust completely changes the game. It gets rid of that master key, and instead it puts a unique, intelligent lock on every single door. A lock that is constantly asking, are you still sure you're supposed to be here? And as we head into 2025, that's a question that no company can afford to ignore.